The NFT market is chugging along. We got open editions flying off the shelves. We got meme season. It has been a very fun start to the year in the market. We're going to dive into that pretty deeply today. Before we get going, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, head to FLOLiO.com for all of your NFT portfolio management needs. Nothing we say is financial advice. Do not buy anything just based on what we have to say about it. Do your own research. We're just a couple of guys who like the market. Big NFT guy right here. So, we're just giving our opinions, kind of how we're handling things. Kevin, we talked yesterday about crypto. Today we're talking about NFTs. Crypto market having another solid day. Love seeing ApeCoin, taking a nice leg up here. Matic up to almost 118. I don't want to spend too much time on crypto, but it's hot out there. And I said on Twitter earlier, it feels like a really good opportunity to take some profit.
Wow, that's almost like the best advice I've heard on crypto Twitter ever, But yeah, it's definitely giving you a wonderful opportunity if you're in the mood to sell. Not financial advice, obviously, you do whatever you want. But yeah, I mean, some pretty nice prices out there compared to what we've seen since November.
Yeah, I'm following through on, there are a lot of, let's just say there are a lot of influencers out there who love to give advice and take victory laps, but don't actually when they say that you should buy something or they have a price target, they don't actually follow through on it. I try to follow through on what I say. Same thing goes on the sell side. So I sold one of my sewer passes this morning, and I did, what I've been saying I want to do is a third of it into USDC, a third of it into long-term holdings, a third of it I put back into the market to try to continue to stack ETH throughout the year. That's been my game plan. I'm not planning on selling ETH this year to pay the bills. I'd rather accumulate. And so, I'm trying to follow my own advice here. When I see prices, we saw Sewer Pass go past 3 ETH this morning. It's pulled back a little bit now. I was able to make a 2x in 1 week. I'm not gonna shy away from that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good return right there. That fast.
Yeah. 1.38 to after fees 2.71. I'll take that every day. Every day. So we're seeing a lot of euphoria in the market right now around a handful of projects. A lot of stuff has been moving sideways, which all things considered is probably a good thing for a lot of these ones that haven't had much news. But there are a handful that I want to look at that have really, really taken a big leg up over the last few weeks. And I think it's time to maybe cash out on some of them. So it's been, we go through these metas in the NFT market. So what I mean by that is similar types of collections, move together. We've seen it with the female-led project. We've seen it with some very the cute art projects, anime type projects. When Azuki ran earlier last year, we saw a whole bunch of other projects just like it go on similar runs. Well, Azuki is still around, and those other ones are not. So I think it's really important in times like this to know what exactly you're trying to get into, how you can manage your risk around that, and when it's time to take some profit.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm interested to learn what you got to say right here, because I absolutely know nothing about the market, but I'm very excited to learn. And hopefully, I could get into it at some point in the near future.
So I'm going to start with memes, because meme cards by Punk6529. If you don't know who he is, one of the most well-respected collectors in the NFT market. He has his own fund, his own NFT fund. He's like an OG CryptoPunk. He's been around NFTs for, I'm not going to call myself an OG. I've been around for a couple of years now, but this guy's been around, since damn near the beginning. And so he's been working with a group of artists, and they are putting out these meme cards. I'll pull it up here in a second. But basically, they started last year, 3 days a week in collaboration with an artist. They release one of these cards, and they have, special stipulations for who can mint them. If it's an artist and you have some of their one-of-one work, you're going to be able to mint one. They do some airdrops as well. If you own some of their open edition work, you have the chance to potentially mint one. So there's a lot of cool stuff they've been doing, and I'm a fan of it for a few reasons. Number one, it's getting money into the pocket of artists, and these are minting at a very reasonable price. And from what I understand, a good amount of it is going to the artists themselves. So if we scroll down here, we can see, we got a bunch of different ones. A lot of them, there's different focuses, like the WAGMI cards, the GM cards, This was from, I mentioned before, Tommy Wilson, former guest of the show. We have some other ones down here that I talked about the other day. This is from Ruben Wu. We got Drifter Shoots. We got Kath Samard, a well-known photographer. We have Alien Queen. We have a lot of artists who are very respected in the space. Grant Yoon right here. I'm hoping that one maybe pulls back a little bit more. Same with this one from Rick Oostenbrock, friend of the show. So there are a lot of really cool ones. And something I love about this is the fact that, like I said, artists are getting paid. You can own a piece from some of these top tier artists that you really like. I bought my first one yesterday. It's this one right here from Dirty Robot, the creator of Ranga. I love his work. I own a lot of what he puts out. But you can own a piece from some of these artists whose one of ones or current open editions are really high. Like I mentioned the Grant Yoon piece that you can buy for I think like 1.
Yeah, so
totally hit. I hit back on the wrong tab, Kev. So we are back at it.
Yeah, you missed a lot where you're going.
Back in my train of thought. Yeah. So as I was saying, you can buy some of these pieces from artists whose one of ones or other open editions are very highly priced. Okay. So for instance, this piece right here by Grant Yoon, going for 1.1 ETH. Not a small amount of money, but if you compare it to his one of one pieces that go for like the most recent one sold for 25 ETH, and that was like underpriced compared to a lot. He has ones that have sold for 50 to 150 ETH. So owning a piece of his work, a one of one piece, something that most people aren't going to be able to get, but the 1.1 ETH can be a little bit more palatable. Same thing for Rick, same thing for Dirty Robot. So I think it's cool from that standpoint, and they're kind of gamifying things. There's no like huge promises, right? Like this is not a company or a NFT business that's like, hey, we're releasing this, and this. It's no, we're putting out memes, we're collaborating with artists, and that's the extent of it. So I do appreciate that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty sweet. Like, obviously, I'm not as deep in NFTs as you are, but some of the names that you brought up, I'm like, oh, yeah, I know that they're big artists in the space. So, like, these price points, like you said, not necessarily cheap for all of them, but for the most part, this is a pretty good opportunity to get a piece of, some of these famous artists' work. Like, you're a Ladytron fan, pick up a Ruben Wu, you know what I mean? Like, there's tons of things that you, like, options you could potentially grab. Like, Rick's awesome. His work's really freaking cool, but it's like, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yep, for sure. And if you look at, you have OSF, the creator of Wrecked Guy. The floor, it's interesting. The floor on Wrecked Guy is like 1.2 ETH. The floor on this open edition is 1.48, but there's less than 600 of these. There are 10,000 Wrecked Guys. So I think that's a pretty cool piece to have. And like I said, I'm a fan of these. The prices have started to come down a little bit, which I bought at the top. Like I gotta love when I do that. I don't make the right move every time, but prices are starting to come down. So it's some of these other ones, like if the Grant Yoon goes under 1 ETH, I'm a buyer right there. If Rick's piece goes down to 1 ETH, I'm a buyer at that price point as well. Like I don't expect, there's some things I'm looking to flip and try to make profit from, but there's some that I just want to hold because I appreciate the artists behind them and I like owning some of their work. So that is the memes by 6529. Now let's get into the open edition stuff, because this is where I think people need to be a little bit more wary and not be afraid to take some profit. So we've seen quite a few of these open editions in the past, and ones that also have burn mechanics. So what I mean by that is you can buy an open edition or a handful of open editions, and if you burn a set number of them, you get a different NFT. And if it sounds like it's a bit of a Ponzi, it's because it pretty much is, right? So there are a lot of these. The most recent one that's been getting a ton of attention is called Checks by Jack Butcher, who has been around crypto for a long time, very well respected. This is maybe the only one that I think has legs to really go for a while. I mentioned with some of the different metas we've had in the past, it's always started by one certain project and a bunch of people copy it. And so usually the one that started it or the one that does it the best is the one that survives when a lot of these fall off. So Checks by Jack Butcher is one that has done very well. It was an $8 mint and it was an open edition. So there were about 16,027 of these that were minted for $8. We've seen the metadata on it change so that the art has changed over time. And there is going to be like not necessarily a burn mechanism, but a swap mechanism where you can swap a certain number of them for a more limited one. And, you know, we've seen like the price now is 4.6 or 0.465 ETH. So it has gone from $8 up to a floor of $744. And that's where I'm saying, like, for the love of God, if you bought some of these for $8, I don't care. Like, maybe they can go up to 0.75. But right now you're looking at a 100x in the span, or like a 90x in the span of a few weeks. Like, just take the money. Like, not financial advice, but for the love of God, like that's an obscene return in less than a month. Like that is, you know, an 80x. You're waiting decades in traditional markets to get that kind of thing. In crypto, you're waiting a long time as well. Like, this is where, you know, people who can detach themselves from the piece itself, from what they think it could go to, and live in the reality and in the now, have an edge in NFTs. Because, like, take that profit, sock some of it away, move some into a different project. Like, that's an obscene return to not take advantage of.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you picked up a couple of them, like, I'm not saying take profit, but
yeah,
you have a good amount. Like, you're definitely up on your investment if you were able to mint it out at $8. Like, pick one of those up. So, like, worst comes worst, say this thing does crash, at least you have the cash on hand to buy back lower. But again, it's just something to think about. Like, if you're really that bullish on like the project itself or the art, otherwise it's like, yeah, I mean, you know, we've been waiting. Just look at the bear market that we're currently in. It's pretty hard to get an 90, 100x these days. I mean, unless you're just at the right place at the right time. And people who bought it $8, you are.
Yeah, we have another one that has gained quite a bit of steam is Proceed with Caution. This one right here. So once again, the kind of color Ponzi that we're seeing with 8 different colors. There are, you know, there are burn mechanisms involved in it. The different colors are ERC20 tokens. So, you know, it's a collection of each color, and you can buy from. The red one doesn't even have any listed because I guess it's pretty rare. And we're also seeing this with Neon Balloon, which is like a cat, like a pixelated cat with a balloon. Like, some of this stuff, you know, maybe I'm just not highbrow enough to understand the art side of it, Kevin. That is very possible. But like, I've seen some of the stuff pop up in group chats I'm in, and I'm just like, I have no interest in trying to chase the color of a balloon and putting, you know, in this economy, Kevin. So, you know, I think some of these things, you just need to, if you're going to get in, have like a tight window where you're willing to get out and don't look back. Like, there is so many people have this in their head. They're like, oh, if I sell it here, I'm going to be kicking myself if I look back. And it's just like, that is, from a, you know, trying to make money standpoint, one of the dumbest things you can do. Okay. Getting overly attached to these like open editions, to whatever piece they are, not be willing to like take profit, and like to think that like, oh, well, I don't want to miss out on more profits. Just like, stop being greedy. Like, over time, these little wins add up, and you're gonna, you know, the people who are consistently trying to hit singles and, you know, set these tight ranges where they're willing to take profit are far more likely to make money in the long run than the people who just like are willing to round trip it back to zero. Because like, say you bought one of those checks for $8 and you're not selling at 0.46. When are you selling? Are you going to tell yourself the same story at, you know, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8? Like, you know, take your profit, man. Like, I'm not trying to turn this into the financial advice hour. I'm not trying to FUD anything, but I just see too many people look back and be like, well, I didn't take profit this time, but I'll do it next time. And it's like, you sure about that? You sure you're going to take profit next time?
Yeah, it's I got 2 things to say, but like, based off that, it's like, people need to learn how to take profit and also learn when to take a loss. Like, it's necessary when you're in this space, like with crypto, NFTs. Like, if you take a loss sometimes, you're probably, I mean, you could position yourself where you could have lost way more. But I mean, if you know how to take profits, it's like, okay, then you know how to take profits when you think the time is right. You're pretty much just getting yourself into the point where it's like, okay, when it starts to get to a point where I don't think that it's going to go up much more, or it's not worth the risk of it going up much more because the risk of it falling is way higher, that's when taking profits in the past and putting it pretty much towards strategies to the future, you're going to be, not profitable, maybe profitable, but you're definitely going to be better suited to succeed rather than just, hoping everything goes to, I don't know, like 100 ETH or anything like that. We saw at BAYC. It's just, you have to know when to take profits, and it's going to be beneficial to you long term always. Not financial advice.
For sure.
Always.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think we've said the not financial advice thing enough now. Between the two of us, I think we've said it a dozen times. But it's true, and everyone wants to think like, oh, well, it's pulling back a little bit. This is just another accumulation phase. They love tossing around accumulation phase when it comes to NFTs. It's just like, or it's just going to keep going down. So maybe you just like, and what you said about not being afraid to take a loss, that was such an important part for me last year. Was like knowing when, like, okay, yes, I'm down on this. I'll just write it off as a tax loss. That's fine. And in situations like Gutter Cat Gang, I think I bought my first Gutter Cat for like 80. I sold it for like 6.80. Well, guess what? The floor on those is now 1.9. So it's just like sometimes taking that loss is okay because you could take a much bigger one down the road. So don't get too overly attached to these things, and be willing to take some profit, take some loss, stack that ETH. Maybe you put it, that ETH that you could be holding in a project that is slowly bleeding could absolutely go into something that does take a nice run up. So don't be afraid to sell at a bit of a loss. There's no shame in that, especially if you take profits at other times.
Absolutely.
You need to balance that out.
I had a question about that, the proceed with caution piece. When did that, when that minted out, or like when that started? It was a long time ago.
Started. So it started. This particular project started this year, but it has a fairly well-known artist behind it.
What's the name?
I'm gonna butcher this name. Here, let me just screen share it real quick so I don't destroy this person's name. No.
Oh yeah, it is him. I know.
Okay.
This guy is.
So this is his open edition.
Yeah, I know this guy exactly. So I used to do. I was huge on Tezos, like NFTs and stuff like that. One-of-one, cool art. I mean, my profile pic for Twitter, the RoboCop one and the Bitcoin one, those are Tezos NFTs. But this guy was like the number one guy on the blockchain for Object.com on the marketplace. Tons of people bought his stuff. He had like the highest floor price at one point. So just the artwork, I was like, I know this from somewhere, and it's his stuff. So it's pretty cool. Looks like he moved on to ETH.
Yeah, for at least this collection. I think he still does work on Tezos, but I think for this open edition collection, he did it on ETH. So a lot of people have been using manifold.xyz to release these because it's an easy site to set up on. They are building out to where you can use their setup also for burning. So we have this one. There's another one that I think could be good long term called Drunk Santa. By the artist Crypto Painter. He is someone I've known for a while. He's very active on Twitter, makes a lot of cool art. He put one out. I'm not gonna say he started this whole thing, but he, did this last Christmas of last year, so all of a month ago. But he put out an open edition called Drunk Santa, where you can burn a certain number of them and get other pieces. So that one's pretty cool. And what no one is really talking about when it comes to the open edition burn is Xcopy. For those who don't know, Xcopy is like one of the original artists in the NFT space, as far as digital art goes, has some of the highest selling pieces of all time. And he's done quite a few burn mechanics in the past for grifters and a few of his other collections. He has one called Max Payne and Friends, which was an open edition that ran for a short period of time last year, sold like 7,400 pieces. He hasn't really talked about it in a while, but we know that there's going to be a burn of some kind, and it's a higher price point. Floor right now is 0.79. It's slowly been moving down, but that is a spot where we talk about zigging where others are zagging, or looking right when others are looking left. I think if you like some of this open edition stuff, I would be taking profit from checks and proceed with caution and putting it into Max Payne. I don't have either of those projects, so I'm not going to do that. But if I had those, I would be selling and moving into Max Payne, because I think that is going to be the next project that, once he does something with it, the floor price on that is going past 1 ETH, no problem.
Yeah, and you said that he's actually burning they're burning some of the NFTs itself, so the supply would be a lot. Yeah, I mean that's instantly going to create demand. That's just going to cause the price to go up naturally too.
Yeah, I mean, I could see. I don't think you're going to get a 10x on these. Like, I don't think they're going to 8 ETH or anything. But would I be shocked if Max Payne went to 1.5 ETH? No. And I think it is a higher upside, lower risk play than holding on to a lot of these other, or buying into a lot of these other open editions now that they've pumped up. So just something to keep in mind there. So that really is all I wanted to touch on with the open editions and the meme cards. I'd say overall, like I mentioned at the top, a lot of stuff hasn't moved very much, but we are slowly getting some news in. We found out earlier this week that Doodles is going to be launching Doodles 2 actually on the Flow blockchain, and that is going to be starting on January 31st. So this has been long awaited. It had been discussed for a while. The team who created Doodles, they worked on CryptoKitties, which was on Flow. So this was pretty widely speculated. There's been a lot of FUD around it because everyone likes to focus on, ETH or Solana or whichever blockchain for NFTs, and Flow outside of Top Shot hasn't gotten as much recognition. But I think this was a smart move on their part because of the ease of use of Flow. Like we talk about, trying to bring more people into NFTs. Well, the complexity of dealing with ETH, of seed phrases, of your wallets, that's a whole other thing. So I do think that long term this will be a good move by Doodles, and I'm interested to see how the Doodles launch goes next week.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I rarely hear of Flow. Obviously, Top Shot is the only thing I think of when I think of the Flow blockchain. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, that's a pretty big name coming to to the blockchain. It's not a ton of competition, I would assume. So might see some decent returns. Maybe more projects eventually go to Flow blockchain too. But definitely very interesting.
And I think Flow would be a good token to look at on the crypto show. We've seen a lot of volatility in it, but over the last few days, it's gone a little bit back up, and I think we could see if everything goes well with that. There's Ticketmaster is on Flow. I think that could be a place where the Flow token is at like $1.09 right now, and I think that there's potential to the upside. Moving forward, if this Doodles 2 goes well, if it can get the attention that they want, I think more and more projects could transition, maybe not completely, but part of their collection over to Flow. We're seeing, with DeGods and Utes, we're seeing some of these projects or some of these businesses kind of diversify what blockchain they're on based on the needs of each of those collections. With Doodles 2, it is going to be a much lower price point. So paying like the gas fees that are on, Ethereum doesn't make any sense. And so I think that's an interesting thing that's going to be happening moving forward. And I heard on a show yesterday, someone talking like, getting upset about what blockchain the NFT is on is kind of stupid. It would be like getting upset about what website or what server your favorite website is on. Like, does anyone really care if the website is on AWS or some other service? So I think we're going to see more of this moving forward based on the needs of each individual project, not just being on Ethereum or being only on Solana.
Yeah, it's pretty. I think that you explained that extremely well. Obviously, different projects, different necessities, and maybe just since everything's on Ethereum currently, a lot of people think that there's just tons of money to be there. But eventually, the more people that adopt to the crypto, they're going to eventually go to all these blockchains, and you're going to find communities in each one that are going to grow. So it's just a matter of time before all that stuff takes off. I just pulled up Flow real quick. You want to look at it?
Yeah. The final thing I wanted to touch on today was just another piece of news from the NFT market this week was Kevin Rose, the founder of Proof, which is the team behind Moonbirds. He wasn't hacked because I think people are kind of misusing the terminology here. His wallet was drained, and it was because he clicked on a bad link. So no one broke into his account. He approved a approved a gasless transaction, and he was he had like $2 million worth of assets, an autoglyph, which is extremely rare and valuable, like more than 25 squiggles. All of these things got pulled out of it, got drained from his wallet because he clicked a bad transaction. And so I think this is just another good reminder for people. Be very careful with your assets. Like, when in doubt, don't click a link. Go to revoke.cash and remove remove a lot of these approvals that you have out there. Be smart, because there are a lot of shitty people in this world who are going to try to take your assets, and don't make it easier on them. Like we've had all the jokes in the world about how many ape holders have lost apes due to these these phishing or these social engineering attacks. Like, just be very careful. There's nothing wrong with a little extra paranoia. Get a hardware wallet, but also be aware that hardware wallets are not the end all be all. They are not the only layer of protection you need. Try to spread out your assets, so if one wallet gets compromised, you don't lose everything. Just be smart here.
Yeah, definitely. Don't make it easy for these people. That's probably the best advice I've heard, is when it comes to protecting your assets.
Yep. Let's look at Flow real quick, and then we're gonna wrap it for the day.
Sounds good. Yeah, I was just looking at it. It's FLOW, right? That's the ticker, I think.
FLOW, yes.
Like 109. Yeah, it shows you how often I look at this. All right. So I just pulled this up. That we're using KuCoin just because they have a little bit further history. So obviously it came into the market. Let's see. I don't know if this is the beginning of when it launched, but we could see that it would go up to $5, and it's just been a bleed all the way out to here. What we're seeing a little bit now is we saw this pump in the past few weeks. It's coming down a little bit, but we're seeing obviously volumes coming down as the price is pushing up here. And obviously this is a red week, so maybe we start to see this curve into the overbought. We're currently overbought on the weekly. Let's look at the daily. Daily, we're pretty much oversold, so there's probably a little bit more room to the upside. When I look at this, this is my macro outlook. I think that we're probably going to come more to the downside, as we see here. I don't care really that the daily is oversold right now. That's just volatility. We're going to see a lot of that in the next 2 weeks. So stochastic RSI moving up and down doesn't worry me too much. That's why I look to the weekly. And the weekly, we're definitely overbought. Like, this shot up way too much over the past 4 weeks. And I think that we're definitely going to retest this 63-cent level here. Double bottom. Again, I think a lot of things are going to come crashing down. Will it make lower lows? It's very highly likely. There's not a lot of data to support that it won't. There's no support below there, so it's going to have to find support at some point, pretty much making history as we go. But I can definitely say that this level of 63 cents is support, and I would expect this to be tapped once again. Once people start to realize that we're in a bull rally, right, or a bear rally, and the sentiment isn't necessarily macro bullish. So that's just what I'm seeing with the flow. There's probably going to see cheaper prices. Again, will it? There's never any guarantees, but it definitely looks like that support level should be tested again, as we see the daily is coming to the downside, but the weekly looks like it's coming down. And I just want to look at that one daily one more time. You just see this, like, it's just curving. And then if we know the weekly's coming down, obviously the price action is going to come down. We see it again. Wrong button. We see it again here, and we see it again here. So these are just tops. Eventually it's going to come down.
Okay. Before we head out, I had mentioned when I talked about this on Twitter and a little bit at the top of the show, I want to give some takes on a few projects that I think are undervalued right now. When we talk about looking where other people aren't. So there are 3 that I want to discuss, and I will say that I own no assets from from any of these. So this is not me pumping my bags by any means, but 2 of them are companion pieces. So first is going to be Beans by Azuki. Beans took a pretty big run up as we approached the 1-year anniversary of Azuki. People were expecting a bigger announcement than the new website that they have, which is actually really cool. Beans went over 2 ETH. They're back to 1.5. I think there's still potential upside. I know there's still potential upside there. So I think that's a good option. Moonbird Oddities is another one that was close to 2 ETH. It's back to 1.3. We know that Moonbird Mythics are coming in Q1 at some point, and you'll be able to burn so it's kind of a win-win in that the oddities were art made by Gremplin, who's a very well-known artist. You can burn that to get the mythic if you think the mythics look cooler and are going to trade at a higher price, or you can just hold the oddity because a bunch of people are going to burn them. It's going to decrease the supply. We've seen over and over again that any sort of burnable asset that has a decreasing supply tends to go up in value over time, and you'll have a more rare piece of art from Gremplin. So that's number 2. And then the last one is going to be a project called The Plague. These got up to about 0.65. They've pulled back to 0.44. I know Pons, who is the founder of this project. I'm on a few chats with him. very sharp guy. This is definitely, this to me, this is not like a flip for the short term kind of thing. This is more of a long term play because I know he has a lot planned for it. These were trading at like 0.03 ETH for the longest time, but he's released some stuff. He started to get a little bit more attention to the project. It got up, a pretty high price, like 0.7, 0.8. It's seen a nice pullback. I think we could see it go sub 0.4, which to me, that might be my opportunity to jump into the project. So those are my 3 picks right now: Beans by Azuki, Moonbird Oddities, and the Plague. Those are what I'm looking at.
Nice. I'll definitely take a look into those. See if I can move some cash over. Gotta have that cash flow.
Yes, sir. We don't never invest more than you can, Kevin. Right?
I agree.
That's always the mantra we got to live by. So that's going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back on Monday with the crypto show. Back for more NFT content on Tuesday. Same schedule next week, everybody. We got 4 shows: 2 crypto, 2 NFT. God damn, do I love making some content. So thank you, everyone who watched today. Please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, share us out if you think that people are going to enjoy the content that we're putting out around crypto or NFTs or both. Kevin and I really enjoy doing this, so happy that you guys tuned in. So for Kevin, for the team at FLOLiO, I am Jeremy. Have an awesome weekend, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.